Mr. Chairman, I do want to address the bills we have on the agenda today, but first I want to take a few moments to ask about the 6 motions for subpoenas we asked for and asked to be placed on the agenda today. Let me provide some background for members very briefly. Nearly 2 weeks ago, on October 20th, the chairman's staff came to our staff and asked which items we wanted on the agenda for today's business meeting. We asked for 6 motions for subpoenas, and we explained exactly what they were. First is a subpoena for documents relating to Michael Flynn that the White House has been withholding in response to our committee's bipartisan request in March. Chairman Gowdy now argues that seeking these documents might somehow interfere with a criminal investigation, but he held the opposite position on the Benghazi committee. Second is a subpoena for documents the White House is withholding about the President's top aides using private email for official business. The Chairman now argues that we should wait until the White House conducts an internal review, but we have received no date certain and no commitment for all of the information we're seeking. Third is a subpoena for documents about reports that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump relocated their personal email accounts to the Trump Organization after our committee directed them not to do so. We asked the Chairman to join us in obtaining these documents, but he declined. Fourth is a subpoena for documents the White House is withholding relating to the administration's response to hurricanes in Puerto Rico and the United States Virgin Islands. This request was nearly identical to the one our former Republican Chairman, Tom Davis, sent after Hurricane Katrina, but again, Chairman Gowdy declined to join. Fifth is a committee subpoena for documents from Michigan Governor Rick Snyder, who is withholding in those documents he's withholding in response to our committee's bipartisan requests in February on the Flint water crisis. The Chairman did agree to ask the Governor to explain the discrepancies in his testimony to our committee, but he declined to join us in obtaining documents that would show if he was telling the truth. And finally, is a subpoena for the documents the Kushner companies are withholding about reports of abusive housing practices in Maryland. Members of the Maryland delegation asked the company in August for these documents, but the company refused. Our staff worked to inform the Chairman's staff about those problems, but he declined to join our request. Unfortunately, our staff never heard back to our request 2 weeks ago. I and other Democratic members sent the Chairman 6 individual letters explaining in detail our exact basis for each of these 6 subpoena motions. But again, we never received any letter or other response from Chairman Gowdy. Instead, on Monday night, the Chairman circulated the agenda for today's meeting and simply omitted any reference to our motions for subpoenas without any explanation. So on Tuesday, I wrote to the Chairman yet again on behalf of all the Democratic members, and I asked him to reconsider his decision to block these motions from today's markup. He responded to that letter this morning, summarily rejecting all of our requests and taking positions that are 180 degrees different than those he took during the previous Democratic administration. I understand that the Chairman may personally disagree with our efforts to conduct vigorous oversight of the executive branch, and in particular, this White House. We get that. But all of our committee members deserve the opportunity to debate and to vote on these motions rather than have them unilaterally blocking their consideration. Our House rules provide for subpoenas to be issued by a vote of the full committee, and we are asking for this opportunity to do so. Before Chairman Gowdy became Chairman, when a Democrat was in the White House, he promised to exercise our committee's authority just as vigorously with a Republican president. He said this, and I quote, "I hope I live long enough to see a Republican president. And if I do, And if I'm in Congress, I promise you I will make her or him be responsive to the People's House when they have legitimate requests for documents, end of quote. Today's markup was an opportunity to make good on that promise, but he disregarded our requests. He failed to respond to our letters and blocked all of those votes. Mr. Chairman, since you are presiding over today's markup, I ask you, when will we be allowed to consider these motions and vote on these subpoenas? And with that, I yield to Mr. Conway.
I thank my friend. Mr. Chairman, I have copies of a draft subpoena seeking the documents the ranking member just outlined, and I would ask that we issue those subpoenas, and I so move.
Second.
I thank the gentleman from Virginia, but the motion is improper as the gentleman has not been recognized for the purpose of offering a motion.
May I ask the Chair, are you ruling the motion out of order?
Do you have a parliamentary inquiry?
I do.
All right, and that parliamentary inquiry is what? Would you like to state that?
I ask the Chair, are you formally ruling my motion out of order?
Well, I'm just saying that the gentleman from Virginia, of whom I hold in very high regard, was not recognized for the purpose of offering that particular motion.
Of further parliamentary inquiry to my friend, for whom I have great esteem, as he knows.
And I do know that. I thank the gentleman.
Thank you. When would such a motion then be in order?
Well, obviously, this particular markup, as you know, has an agenda that has already been agreed to, and so those items that have actually been put forth would be only those items that would be considered in order today.
And therefore, the motion I made is out of order?
As I've stated previously to the gentleman from Virginia, his motion is out of order because he's not recognized to make such a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would invoke House Rule 1, Clause 5, and appeal the ruling of the Chair and ask for a recorded vote.
So in consultation with the House parliamentarian, the Chair's decision regarding the agenda is not appealable, and so I would have to rule that particular issue as one that is not actually under the rules that the gentleman from Virginia stated.
Reclaiming my time. And this is, Mr. Chairman, I think we really do have to make a better effort with regard to making this White House accountable. We can't have situations where we ask for documents and then the documents are, according to press reports, are then relocated to the Trump organization. I mean, that, to me, that goes against all of us as members of Congress. And so I mean, and I could go on and on. I appreciate your courtesy, but this is, I think we have to be, this is a critical moment in the history of this country. And it is, I don't think history will smile upon us if we take a back seat or a side seat and avoid looking into and making this White House accountable. And with that, I'll yield that.